Tennessee's day in the spotlight of the SEC Media Days went pretty well. Josh Heupel broke down what he's looking for in a starting quarterback. We got boots on the ground down there to tell us exactly what happened. Tennessee SEC Media Days. We'll look back at it now. It's your Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Wednesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Cain. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. And today's episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. A big shout out to our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Busy show here today, recapping everything that was Tennessee in the spotlight of the SEC Media Days down in Atlanta, Georgia, at the College Football Hall of Fame. Ryan Sylvia, Rocky Top Insider, is going to join us here in a matter of seconds to break down what he saw, what the talk is down there. He was down there covering that event this year for Rocky Top Insider. Josh Heupel breaks down what he's looking for in a starting quarterback. A lot of good stuff. He was fine at the podium. I'll get into that later on, but his interview on the set of SEC Network, I thought it was really, really good. Wrote a story about it. What is he looking for in this quarterback competition? It's coming up here later in the show, and there's a lot of hype around Miles Kitselman, a couple of nice little Miles Kitselman stories that came out of Atlanta, Georgia, as well as the unofficial start of the college football season. That was yesterday as Tennessee took its turn in the spotlight at SEC Media Day. So without further ado, let's get what Ryan Sylvia, Rocky Top Insider, has to say, his notes, his topics, all the stuff from the College Football Hall of Fame happening right now. Ryan Sylvia, formerly of Vol Report of the Rivals Network, now with RTI. So congrats on the new gig, man. This is kind of your first on assignment with RTI. What's it been like down there, seeing Tennessee take the podium for SEC Media Days?
Yeah, it's been fun. Thanks. First of all, appreciate you having me on. I've been, I don't want to lie and say I've been an everydayer, but I've been pretty close. I try to keep up with the show. So I appreciate
every other
you having
day.
me on.
There we go.
Every other, most dayers,
Yeah.
I guess you could say. But it's been fun to be out here. And, you know, we got the new RTI merch on and everything like that. So it's been an adjustment in some ways to get used to saying just Rocky Top Insider instead of Vol Report and things like that. But it's really exciting to, you know, be with the team, Rick Butler down here, and get to experience SEC Media Days. But you're right, it is the first assignment, and it's an interesting one with all the turmoil that happened this offseason between, you know, everyone knows Nico leaving, and then you bring in Joey Aguilar, and of course that's at the top of everyone's mind and what everyone wants to figure out, because it is the first time we've really talked to Josh Heupel since Joey Aguilar got to campus and has started to integrate himself within the offense. So it's been interesting to hear the answers. No one's, you know, revealing too much. They're keeping everything close to their chest, but it is something that definitely has partially dominated the day.
Yeah, I mean, for guys like us who are like in the weeds, we're on the local beat, so we see it every single day. Like, again, it's enough, right? We're so tired of talking about it. You know, every time I mention Nico's name on the show or I put him in a headline or whatever, people are like, enough's enough, stop, you're obsessed. But from a national perspective, I mean, again, this is the time to ask those questions. So, you know, he was asked about it, Josh Heupel, at the main podium, and, you know, nobody really pressed him on it. But I would assume as the afternoon went along and he went to Radio Row and talked with this outlet, and I mean, he probably got asked that question so many times. Mm-hmm. Nico, Joey Aguilar, all that and more. What's been the talk, or at least from, you know, other times you've seen Heupel here today, or some from the other players? Kind of what's been the synopsis? What's been the talk about the Nico Iamaleava situation and now where they are with the quarterback competition?
They're just ready to move on from it, I think, and part of that is just they don't want to spend energy and effort on people that aren't in the program at this point. Yeah. You can understand why. Like, it's nothing but a negative to get held up on the whole Nico situation. So Miles Kitselman said it. They have a motto in the locker room. He said there's some explicit words in it that he's not going to share with us, but it's along the lines of, you know, everyone we need is in this locker room. You've heard other teams kind of take that type of motto and run with it as well. And that's what Tennessee's going with this year, it seems like, is everything that Tennessee needs to get back to the point they were at last year, where they're competing in the college football playoffs. They're looking to go further. They have on this roster, and that doesn't matter if it's Jake Merklinger or Joey Aguilar or George McIntyre at quarterback. They feel confident that it is going to be one of those guys. But that's been kind of the synopsis. Josh Heupel's very adamant that it's a three-man competition. You know, you'll see where the cards lie once you go into the season. But I think there is an aspect of it that Josh Heupel likes. I think Miles Kitselman likes it too, where there's no, hey, you have the job going into the season. It is a race, whether it's between 3 guys or 2 guys or however many guys you want to put in the mix. They are pushing each other every day. You can't skip this workout. You can't, hey, I'll watch film tomorrow instead of today. If you're not doing every single thing every single day, you're going to lose that job. So I do think at the end of the day, this probably really helps Jake Merklinger come along, and it probably really helps Joey Aguilar.
So one of my favorite things about SEC Media Days is, sure, social media, social media has ruined so many great things over the last couple of years. But, you see a lot of the talk, right? We got a general idea of what the national perspective is on Joey Aguilar. But you get to get on there and rub elbows and talk with guys that, you had on your show plenty of times, but you never hung out with in person. That for me was one of the cool things about SEC Media Days. But you go around and you talk to media members who cover LSU or Georgia or Alabama or whoever, and you just talk ball. What's been the talk of your conversations about Joey Aguilar? Knowing, again, I don't want to speak for you. I assume he's going to be the starting quarterback. I think he's going to win that job. Mm-hmm. If that is the case, what's he going to bring here to Tennessee? What's kind of been the talk about Joey Aguilar down there when you've been speaking with media members alike?
It is interesting because, everyone that's around the program and does this for a living, we've all kind of talked ad nauseum about what Joey Aguilar is or what he could be. So it is interesting when you talk to people that are their, national media members or covering other SC programs. It does start with, they kind of go, hey, so it's Joey, right? It's going to be Joey Aguilar. That's the way it starts with, hey, who's going to win this quarterback controversy? And I agree. I think week 1, you're probably looking at Joey Aguilar being the starter. You have a full slate of fall practices to figure things out. But if I had to bet, yeah, I would say it's probably Joey. From there, they kind of poke around. Okay, so what is exactly that going to look like? And I think the number one concern that's come up a lot in Knoxville, it's come up a lot through media members in Knoxville and in the national perspective as well, is what is the turnover situation going to look like? Is Joey Aguilar going to protect the ball, or is he going to look like he did his last season at App State where the interception numbers started to ramp up? Because if those interception numbers start to climb, that's when I think you start to maybe get curious about how short that leash is and maybe when a Jake Merklinger could enter the picture. Conversations kind of move to, what is that going to look like inside of Heupel's system, though? Is Heupel going to be able to protect his guy and make sure those turnovers don't rear their ugly head, or is it going to be something that you really have to focus on? So it does start with Joey Aguilar. It starts with that quarterback controversy or battle, I should say. And then it kind of turns into, okay, what exactly is this going to look like? And is Joey Aguilar going to be able to keep those interception numbers down? Because that feels like the difference between a Joey Aguilar who starts the season as a starter and plays all 12 regular season games as a starter, and maybe a situation where he could start the year, but then all of a sudden you're rolling halfway through the season and that battle starts to heat up again, and it really does become a controversy.
I was going to say, right now it's a battle. We'll see how whoever wins it plays, and then if it plays poorly, then it certainly turns into a controversy. More from Ryan Sylvia down at the College Football Hall of Fame, recapping Tennessee's appearance in the SEC Media Days when we return right here on Locked On Vols. Summer sports, they're in full swing, and whether you're about baseball under the lights or golf on the green, high-stakes soccer action doesn't matter. FanDuel has got the best way to make every single game more exciting for you. You're already following the action, right? Like I watch Major League Baseball all the time, watched the All-Star game last night. So why not make it a little bit more interesting, make it a little bit more thrilling for you, and maybe some coin in your pocket, right? FanDuel, you can get in on the game with your friends while maybe some of your friends are out there at the beach right now getting sunburn or outside of the pool or the river or whatnot. I've been using FanDuel for quite some time, tracking my favorite matchups and keeping everything fresh with those daily promotions. That's what I really enjoy over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even the regular season games feel like must-watch events. Again, I said this a moment ago. I'm already watching it. So why not make it more interesting? Major League Baseball is my thing. NASCAR on the weekends, potentially. You've got some golf. You've got college football futures you can go check out right now. All that and more is over at FanDuel Sportsbook. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to go ahead and get started. FanDuel, it's where you can make every single moment more. FanDuel, go ahead and check it out today. So, Ryan, kind of in that same vein, when you're walking around bumping elbows with media members, radio personnel, it used to be print, TV. We're all kind of one today in the digital world we live in. And it can go hand in hand. I recognize that. I ask you what the thoughts were on Joey Aguilar. What are the thoughts on Tennessee? I think from a national perspective, Tennessee's getting downplayed a little bit, and I get it, right? Nico leaves, Sampson's gone, Pierce gone, this guy gone, this guy, you're replacing this guy, no wide receivers. But then, again, we're in the weeds here. We know how good this roster is, know how good this defense is, know that Tennessee's going to run the ball effectively, know the wide receivers weren't anything last year. So I think, from that perspective, we look at it a little bit differently. But I think for the most part, whenever the preseason predicted order of finish comes out, Tennessee's going to be picked 9th, 8th, 9th, somewhere around there. What's the talk about what Tennessee can accomplish this year, knowing that over at FanDuel Sportsbook, Tennessee's win-loss total is at 8.5?
I think when you talk to people who cover the SEC or cover other teams, a lot of them are probably going to have Tennessee slotted in not too far in the second half of the SEC, but probably, like you said, in that 8, 9, 10 range. And I personally would be surprised if that's where Tennessee ended up. I don't think that I personally don't have Tennessee as a playoff team right now. I don't have them going 10-2, but it's tough for me to see worse than 8-4 and probably realistically 9-3, somewhere in that range. So if that's the case, and assuming that you do take care of business in all of your out-of-conference games, you're looking at 5-3, maybe 6-2 if things go really well, and worst case 4-4 SEC record, which puts you in that upper half of the SEC. So when things come out in a few days and those rankings start to drop, I wouldn't be surprised if it makes Tennessee fans angry, but you have to look at it from their perspective, where you put a lot of stock into what's at quarterback. And I think there's still a little bit of a lingering narrative of Josh Heupel's defenses because of those first few seasons where he was at Tennessee. And that just couldn't be further from the truth. Like, you saw what Tennessee did last year on the defense side of the ball, and they return a lot of talent. Aaron Carter, I think, is in store to have a monster year, and he's representing the program at media days as a junior. He's saying all the right things, so that side of it's covered. But on the field, he feels like a guy that could take a big step. Jeremiah Thielander right next to him feels like a guy who could take a substantial step. If Jermod McCoy's healthy, we all know what that is. But even if he's not 100% to start the year, Ricky Gibson's an elite cornerback. The guys behind him, you bring in Colton Hood, he's really good. Jalen McMurray can fill in the gaps to get things started if you need to as well. And up front on the defensive line, obviously Bryson Eason, who's here. But Joshua Josephs could have a really good year. Jordan Ross could take a monster step for Tennessee this year. You just go down the list of guys in the defensive end, and you're like, okay, well, this group should be one of the better groups in the SEC this year as well, which has to give you confidence that they're not going to slip up against a Kentucky. They shouldn't slip up at home against an Arkansas or even when Oklahoma comes to town. So I think there is a discrepancy between national and SEC media and what their expectations are compared to people that follow the program every day, or fans that follow the program every day, and what their expectations are at this point.
I wasn't shocked whatsoever when I heard the three guys who are going to be representing Tennessee. All three great guys. Don't get me wrong. We get them in the media all the time, and I like Bryson Eason so much. And, I think Arian Carter's a good kid. I think Miles Kitselman is a great guy. But, again, three guys, maybe Eason, but, three guys for the most part that aren't going to create any storylines. And that's what you want. Yeah. That's by design. I get all that. I did not peg Miles Kitselman going down to Atlanta and kind of being the talk of, at least on Tennessee's side, of SEC Media Days. Maybe that's different for you, but saw some quotes that he's had out there. And I know with the local media this morning with you guys, he said something along the lines of, Jack Van Dorselaer called me out. And, I have my hands on my hips. We don't do our hands on our hips when we're tired, right? And I was tired to have my hands on my hips, and he comes over there and slaps them down and said, we don't do that here at Tennessee. And that's a true freshman doing that to a 13th-year senior, right? And Miles Kitselman. That might not mean much, but that just means that shows me this culture is strong. And Miles Kitselman, Arian Carter kind of echoed those back in April when they talked to us after the Nico Iamaleava situation. It feels like there's been a lot of talk about how this team has used that situation to really come together closer and stronger. And does that win games? No, but that's what you want to have. You want to have a strong culture and a strong team. It feels like that's a lot of the storylines coming out of media days this year about, Tennessee got dealt a bad hand, but man, they're kind of spinning this in the direction you want them to.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to spin it into a full positive of Tennessee's a better football team right now than they were with Nico on the roster. But yeah, you're right. As much as you can, I think they're doing it. And if you're on the roster right now and you're in that locker room, I think it's a great sign that it's not, oh man, let's mail in this season. The guy who we thought was going to be the starter, he's gone. Now it's a gap year. Let's go 7-5 and see what we can do next year. That is not the feeling at all that you get right now from this team. And it feels like Joey Aguilar fits in pretty well with that type of belief in this season. Miles Kitselman talked about how Joey's an outgoing guy. He's someone that walked into the room and instantly it felt like he was best friends with everyone. He's someone that, whether it's let's go work out, let's do this or that, let's go hang out at the pool and things like that. Fortnite, he mentioned. Yeah, it's really anything. It's off the bat, yeah, I'm down. Let's go do it. And so that's a great sign, I think, too, when someone is playing a position as important as quarterback where they need to be the leader of the team. There's no way around it. And you don't have a lot of time to rally the troops around you, to step in and instantly kind of gravitate towards the team and have people ready to support you, I think is a big deal. Obviously, Jake Merklinger has a leg up in that advantage because he's been on the team for a year. But it seems like whether it's Jake Merklinger, whether it's Joey Aguilar, the team's ready to rally around them. And it seems like a situation as well where Josh Heupel mentioned it today to the local media. They were in a similar spot going into 21. They didn't know if it was going to be Hendon Hooker or Joe Milton. Those two guys were best friends. They pushed each other every day. And the winner of that quarterback battle, Joe Milton, gets injured. Hendon Hooker steps in and takes off from there. So they need to both be ready. They need to both push each other. They can't be enemies. They need to be friends. And so far, it seems like those two guys and the team around them, they're all very comfortable with each other and they're all happy with whatever the result is. They just want to go out there and win football games.
Anything else from a Tennessee angle that maybe we haven't discussed so far from Tennessee at SEC Media Days? And then outside of that, some other big takeaways. I know Texas was here today. I know Georgia was there, I guess, yesterday, so on and so forth. What are some other chatter down there at the College Football Hall of Fame with practices starting in about 2 weeks?
Man, I thought the president of the United States walked into the room when Arch Manning came in. It was unbelievable. The cameras following him. Everyone in the building's head turned. It was one of those things like you see at the Super Bowl media days where you have the quarterback on one, everyone's surrounded with all the cameras, and you look over and it's a linebacker and no one's talking.
My favorite thing is, sorry to butt in, I remember last year at the was it the semifinal or maybe it was the media day ahead of the national championship.
With Quinn Ewers on one side.
Yeah, you had Quinn Ewers, the starting quarterback over here, and he had like three reporters, and you had the backup quarterback and Arch Manning over here. I'm like, goodness gracious.
Yeah, it was that type of feeling here in Atlanta this afternoon where there was people on balconies taking pictures of him. There were people standing up in their chairs trying to get it was ridiculous. So Arch Manning is partially the talk of the SEC this year with not a lot of, returning quarterbacks that have played at a really high level. And he's expected to maybe be the best quarterback in the conference this year. So obviously he's going to take a lot of attention. It certainly felt like that when the Texas players took the podium. In terms of Tennessee, though, what I thought was interesting was when guys were talking about the expectations around the program. And we've talked about, Joey Aguilar and what exactly this year is going to look like. But even going forward past that, they're not necessarily happy with just making the playoffs. It's a stepping stone. It's a good first step. But Josh Heupel made sure to note there's a sour taste in everyone's mouth right now. No one is happy about going into Columbus and getting their rear end kicked by Ohio State. There's the expectation to not just make the SEC championship game, but to win the SEC. There's the expectation not just make the playoffs, but win playoff games and compete for national titles. And I thought that was interesting because I don't think every program would necessarily admit that. I think there's programs out there that are coming off playoff appearances this past year who would say, yeah, we're pretty excited. We were just in the playoffs. Let's go, of course, build off that. But that's a really good season. There is a sour taste in Tennessee's mouth from how things finished that year. And I think that could be a push, not just this year, but even going forward the year after that, where the expectation has been clearly outlined that the playoffs isn't it. You got to go further.
Yeah, I thought that I took a note of that whenever Heupel was talking to the main podium when he mentioned that. And that was great. And, aside from all that, I thought Heupel did a great job at the podium. I mean, guy that doesn't like talking. He didn't say anything. There was no breaking news, but very comfortable, had a few jokes. I thought it was pretty good. So anyway, Ryan, appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much for joining us, and look forward to reading your work over at Rocky Top Insider.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Eric. Appreciate it.
Really enjoyed our conversation there with Ryan Sylvia of Rocky Top Insider. Go ahead and follow his work. He was down there, boots on the ground, Atlanta, Georgia, at the Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame, for Tennessee's spotlight in SEC Media Days. All right, here to end the show, I wanted to break down some quotes here that Josh Heupel had on set with the SEC Network. So again, they go down there and then they take their turn at the podium. And while Josh Heupel's talking at the podium, the three players are like talking to what we used to call the the print room when they would talk to, like a media scrum, if you will. And then they're going and doing this show, and then they're over here, and then they all go to the different stations throughout the 3-hour period or whatever. But Josh Heupel kind of kicked off the afternoon there on the podium with the SEC Media Days. But later on in the afternoon, he went and joined the set of SEC. I don't know if it was SEC Now or whatever. There's kind of all day, flood coverage of SEC Network and SEC Media Days. But I thought he did a really good job kind of breaking down. He was asked, what are you looking for in a starting quarterback? I mean, you're going to have a starting. They didn't press him on Nico or anything, but, the fact is you do have a starting quarterback competition in fall camp that kicks off in 2 weeks, right? So, Josh Heupel, what are you looking for in the guy that you're going to name your starting quarterback? He said, quote, "We got two-pronged checks, play to play, right? You've got run to pass, pass to run. You got checks where it's run one direction or one style or another. Then you have tempo. You got RPO game. All the protections that you have to master and how much you trust your quarterback in some of the protection situations is part of the nuances of how you framework and how you want to go about this offense. But then how do you put your best guys in position to go and have success?" Of course, Josh Heupel's done that with a number of quarterbacks. I mean, he hit the absolute jackpot with Hendon Hooker at Tennessee. I mean, it was a perfect fit, perfect marriage. That worked. Say what you want at points in times. I mean, Josh Heupel had success with Joe Milton and Nico Iamaleava. Now, I think, and they made this a point on the set, and I couldn't agree more. I think Joe Milton played his best football with Josh Heupel. Was it good enough to win a national championship? No. Was it good enough to win an SEC championship? No. But Joe Milton played his absolute best with Josh Heupel. I don't know about Nico because there's still so much more football left in the tank for him, especially at this level. Who's to know if he played his best football with Josh Heupel, or if he's going to play at UCLA, or if he's going to reach that pinnacle later in his football career? I don't know. But Dylan Gabriel has had major success with Josh Heupel. Drew Lock at Missouri had major success with with Josh Heupel. Landry Jones, who's on staff right now, Sam Bradford. I mean, those guys had success with Josh Heupel as his quarterback coach. So it's been interesting that they've had a lot of guys who've been super successful, and Josh Heupel spoke on that as well. He said, quote, "I think the great thing about the quarterback position is we've had a lot of guys that have played at an elite level, and then they all get to paint a little bit different in who they are. That's the artistry of playing the position and playing at a high level offensive football, so I'm really, really excited about that." More into making the right decision on who's going to be the starting quarterback, because it's got to be abundantly clear. Like, a lot of people from the outsider's perspective, and it's easy to look this way, right? Like, in 2021, you went through spring practice. There was Hendon Hooker, who transferred in for Jeremy Pruitt from Virginia Tech. You had Harrison Bailey on roster. You had Brian Maurer. I think those were the three quarterbacks on scholarship. Josh Heupel's first spring when he first got the job in 2021. And you go through spring, it is what it is, and they immediately go out and get a quarterback. He goes and gets Joe Milton. So it's easy to sit here and say, okay, well, Josh Heupel went and got his guy. And it's a very similar situation to what Joe Milton had to go through, what Joey Aguilar is going through right now, right? Come in, learn the system and all that, go win the job in fall camp. But it's easy to sit back and say, oh, well, Joe Milton's the anointed starting quarterback, right? I mean, everybody knows Heupel had to go get his guy because he didn't like what he saw in spring. Ask anybody in that locker room. Ask the players. Ask the defenders. I mean, who was the better quarterback in fall camp, that competition? And they're going to say it was Joe Milton hands down. It's funny how all that works, right? Because I think Hendon Hooker was kind of holding some things back, trying to play conservative, he was worrying about turning the football over, worrying about giving up a chance to be the quarterback. And then finally, as Joey Halsey would say, he just let it rip, and the rest is history, right? Whenever Milton gets hurt, he goes in, lets it rip. The rest is history. But Joe Milton outplayed Hendon Hooker in fall camp, and everybody knew it. And so it's important to make the right decision. Make sure you are anointing the true winner of that competition. And Heupel spoke on this as well. He said, quote, "It matters to your offensive players, but also your defensive guy. That's the guy that you trust in him and the guy that's going to pay dividends throughout the course of the season. So that's the reason we handle it the way that we do. We don't have a set timeline. Somebody's got to go take it, learn it, earn it, and take the job. We'll practice in a way where they get the chance to truly compete for it." So he pretty much says, hey, the defenders on your team is going to know who the better quarterback is, right? Not just the offensive guys, the defensive guys are going to know exactly who the best quarterback is on your roster. And, it's pretty evident in that regard. And I think it was evident with Milton and Hooker back in 2021. So, more quotes on the SEC network to the SEC network from Josh Heupel on what he's looking for in a starting quarterback. Quote, "You got to have complete control and command of what we're doing offensively. You have the ball in your hands on every single play. You have to take care of the football. And being a smart player in the scope of what we do, that can be the tempo, it can be the RPO game, it can be run checks, loaded box pass checks, whatever it might be. You got to go and have great command of what you're doing. And once you have that, the non-traits that you're going to see on the field, the leadership, the connection with your teammates, the trust that you've gained from them, all those things are going to play into a part of how we become the best team that we can be at kickoff." Talked about the timeline and how this is kind of very unnecessary when it happened, but also it's an opportunity about his team to come together and to grow closer. Quote, "It's a unique timeline for us when things happen, but through any adversity, you also have great opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it. I think our football team has handled it extremely well," talking about the quarterback change with Nico to whoever, "and I'm looking forward to going in and competing with these guys," end quote. I thought it was a really, really good interview there with Josh Heupel on the set of the SEC Network, breaking down what specifically he's looking for in a quarterback. So I thought that was a big takeaway from SEC Media Days. What I talked about with Ryan earlier about how, he talked to the local media about how it's important, his leadership style. He wants everyone to feel comfortable in holding everybody up to the standard, holding everybody up to the expectations that they put on a set position room or for the team in that regard. And for a true freshman tight end and Jack Van Dorselaer to come and smack the hands off the hips of Miles Kitselman, I think it's funny. And again, it's not. It might not seem like a big deal to you. It might not seem like a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but that got me fired up, man. That screams culture. That screams that you have a healthy locker room. Miles Kitselman also talked about how the guys, 30 or 40 members of the team got together and went to the pool the other night and get together and study for position group tests on a Thursday night that they have on Friday mornings. And he said back in April that this group is just so different. This is a different team. And again, all that's great. And I'm not knocking that whatsoever. It fires me up. I'm talking about it right now. Does that equate to winning ball games? No. No, it doesn't. But when adversity strikes, when you lose a game you're not supposed to, when you get punched in the fourth quarter against Alabama and go down by 10 in front of a sold-out crowd at Neyland Stadium with 15 straight losses to Alabama, up against you, and now you're down 10 points, what's going to happen? How are you going to handle that adversity? Having the culture in place and a strong locker room and the belief in one another, that helps overcome adversity. And so I think that's the biggest thing right there. I really enjoyed some of those stories and some of the stuff that Miles Kitselman had to say down at SEC Media Days. So anyway, again, SEC Media Days, not what it used to be. Certainly it's not, but it's still fun. It's still exciting. And again, it's the unofficial start to the college football season. So I think Tennessee did a really good job representing the program down in Atlanta at SEC Media Days. All right, we'll hear from Josh Ward coming up tomorrow, get his thoughts on SEC Media Days, all that and more. We'll continue to look at Major League Baseball draft, the wins, the losses for Tennessee, what's to come in terms of roster management, and what else is happening around the world of college football. Predicted order of finish for the Southeastern Conference going to be later this week down in Atlanta at SEC Media Days as it continues to roll on. Appreciate you guys for being here. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. This is Locked On Vols, your number one stop for Tennessee football news and entertainment 5 days a week. Wherever you get your podcast, we are free and available. I appreciate you everydayers for making this your first listen, your first watch each and every single morning. We'll do it again tomorrow. This is Locked On Vols.